This conference will now be recorded.
Once again, good morning and good evening, all. And I hope you have gone through my profile actually from Isha. So, but a little thing, a little more, and I have like 5 years of experience in real time as well as working in teaching as well as having real time experience. And so we'll start the demo. And in the meanwhile, if you get any voice breakage or something, or if any issues, please let me know. And so I'm just starting it, and I'll just share the screen and let me know if you are able to see my screen or not. So you can able to see my screen, right?
Yes, you're correct.
So before starting, so what I'll do is I don't know about your profile, so I'll be starting it from the basic. Like I'll be in a perspective that you don't have any programming language, so I'll start it from zero. So basically, why we need any programming language? Neither C like Java, you have PHP, Python. There are a lot of languages, right? So why generally you need any programming language? What does a programming language do? Apart, it's not like only the Java, but what generally a programming language do, and why you need it? Can anyone?
Well, from this is Sano. From the performance point of view, we use it for the customization of our script.
Okay. Okay. Any more? Basically, you need any programming language. What has you just told to customize the script, and basically the first thing is nothing but to make to bring something a solution, right? So when you have some problem, and what you do with the programming language is nothing but you solve that problem, right? So it is basically to make the work simplified, right? You have some complex issue, and you are going to solve that, right? So whatever you see like Amazon or Flipkart or whatever the shopping uh, things that you see is nothing but, so what happened, you have an issue like going to shop and buying that. So what happened, there is Amazon came, so you can able to buy the products in an online. You have a banking system. Before, you don't have, assume that you don't have ATMs, or you don't have that. uh, right now everything has been digitalized, right? So what happened, a programming language came and it has been simplified the work that you do, right? So basically, a programming language will be simplifying the work that you're going to do. And you have different programming language, and there is a props and cons for every programming language, and we'll see what is a Java and what is the advantages of Java, why we have come with the Java. So before Java, what a program is there actually. So basically, does your computer understand a programming language like C or Java? You write the coding, right? So whether does the computer really understand that? No, right? So your computer understands only the language that is your bytecode or a machine code, right? Only computer understand your binary language. So then, but assume that when you are trying to write a code in a binary language, like a simple addition operation or something, what happens? It will be a big issue, right? So for a small thing also, I need to write a complex code, so which is going to take a lot of time. So for that reason, they have introduced some kind of language that is nothing but your assembly language. So I think you understand what is the disadvantage of the binary language. So whenever you want to make a simple addition operation itself, you're going to write a number of lines of code. So assume that when you are trying to, when you will be writing a, a big application, right? So then how complex it will be. So really it will be a very complex issue. And that's the reason they have come up with some other language that is nothing but your assembly language. All right. So in this assembly language, what is nothing but your commands. So instead of writing zeros and one, so the thing is nothing but your computer understands only the zeros and ones. But instead of writing number of zeros and ones, what they come up with is nothing but they come up with some instructions. So you will be writing the language by following some instructions, and you will do the commands, and that commands will help. That commands will be converted into a machine code or a byte code which your computer understands. Right? So you have a commands, that commands will convert into byte code and your computer understands. And if you see, I have just shown an example like adding a two numbers, right? So the instead of you just store that in one places and you just and after that your computer it will be converted to byte code, right? But there are some disadvantages with assembly language. It's a platform dependent, and and how I'll just show not only the platform dependent, and there are even some more disadvantages with your assembly language. So assume that you just want to add a numbers, right? Assume that you just want to a simple operation that you just want to add two numbers. So I am assume that I am going to write the code in an assembly language. So what I do, store a in location. So generally to add two numbers, I need a three variables, and I'll be storing that variables in some values. So store a in some location 101. So a has some value, and store is nothing but a set of instructions. B in location 102 and add locations 101 plus 102 and store in location 102. So if you see what I've done, a simple addition operation. So but the thing is nothing but to write a simple addition operation, you are taking a 4 lines of code. And if you see, assume that your program is having 100 lines of code. And when your program is having 100 lines of code and you have written this in the starting from first line to the fourth line, and you want to use the same 4 lines of code at some other point, right? At the 31st line or some other point you want to use the same code. So what you do, again you need to write the same piece of code. So this is like the fourth line. Again, I'm just writing this at the something like 66th line or something. So similarly, again, you want to use the same addition, right? So again, you repeat this 4 lines of code. So if you see, to do the simple addition operation, you are writing it for 4 lines, and what happened is nothing but you are not doing the reusability of the code, right? I think you got what is the meaning of reusability. So you're writing n number of times, right? So it is like a very complex thing. Assume that when you are trying to do a very big application, so you don't want to do that code repeatability. You want to do a reusability. So that's the reason they came up with some other language like so this is nothing but a disadvantage with assembly language. And you have your assembly language, as I told you, it is nothing but your platform dependent, right? I think you know what's a platform dependent. So you cannot execute that code in all the platforms. So whenever you write some instructions, it will be converted to the byte code. So that byte code will be differ from platform to a platform. The example is nothing but a platform is nothing but a combination of your operating system as well as a processor. So you can take an example of Intel processor. So in this Intel processor, you just have the Windows operating system, and your so Intel is nothing but a different processor, right? So so this is one of the disadvantage with your assembly language. So that's the reason they have came up with a procedure language or C language. They have designed, they have came up with something like a method. So they moved this piece of 4 lines of code into a method, right? So I can take this as a C language. So your 4 lines code has been converted to your 3 lines of code, and what happens is nothing but there is a code reusability. So it means I can able to call that code a number of times. So for example, I just want to use it for a number of times, and then I can able to call it that, right? So this is nothing but you can able to achieve your code reusability. So you have written once and you are calling it a number of times, right? So you have the C language. So how the C language works? So you write the code in a C language, and your compiler converts into an assembly language, and after that there is an assembly language assembler, again it converts into a machine code, as you see. But there is a disadvantage with your C is nothing but even that is a platform dependent, because even it uses assembler, right? So you can see that source code, and whenever you got a .exe file, that cannot be run in other operating systems. So for that you need another compiler. So I need to change that compatibility. So I have a compatibility issue, and it is nothing but your platform dependent, right? So that's the reason they have moved up with object oriented programming like your Java, which is your platform independent, right? So whenever I write a code in Java, what happens? It is going to generate me a .class file. So whenever I generate a .class file, you will have a Java compiler, which will be converted into a bytecode, a .class file, and that will be fed into a JVM, and the JVM will be converted in. So JVM will be the top on your RAM actually. So it's like a virtual RAM. It's like a virtual platform. So where it will be converted into a particular operating system. So when you don't worry about the operating system, you don't worry about the platform that you connect. It is like Windows or Linux or Mac. So your Java code is going to be executed there. So, and even not only this platform independent, there are a lot of advantages when you compare C and Java. Like you have security issues will be very good in compared to C, and there is a lot of features that we'll see whenever we go to the real classes. So, so that's the reason you call this as a platform independent, right? After this, is it clear, or do you have any doubts or something else? So actually you may know this, but I was in a perspective that I just want to start it from basics, so I even giving this intro. So is there any doubts that you have, or is it fine?
Yeah, fine.
Okay. So basically why you need a Java actually, right? You have many, as I told you, you have many programming languages, right? So you see Java has its own advantages, right? So we'll see that features that you have seeing over here, we'll be discussing it in detail actually. So what is just like why it is simple and platform independent, robust. You can just it's not I just don't want to read out all the features, but you can able to see it, right? So it has a lot of features. We'll be discussing that in very detail and why that is there. And so whatever the applications that you see, like you see a mobile based application, or you see an enterprise application, or when you go with the big data applications, there are a lot of applications which are very possible will be you can able to do it by using Java. So whenever for testing people, for example, when you want to do go for a testing things, and your core Java is also very important. And you have so if you see that when you want to do a framework, Spring or a web applications, right? So basically for everything your core Java is a basic thing, right? So when we are very good with this, so you can able, it's nothing but everything is a framework which is built upon that, and you can able to learn it very, very easily. So you see that there are a lot of Java additions that you have. So for example, when you want to develop any applications, we classified the Java into they classified the Java into 3 categories, like J2SE, that is your core Java, that what we learn in this tutorial, and we'll have J2EE and J2ME. So J2EE is for enterprise applications, and J2ME is for micro applications. So J2SE is mainly for a standalone application. So a standalone application is something where your program is going to be executed within a system, right? So if you take a calculator, is a standalone application. So, and that is your standalone application. You have a web application where you have the communications between your client and server, so that you call it as a web application. So like a Gmail, Facebook, whatever you see. So most time we use web application, but when you want to run J2EE also, you should have the knowledge on this core Java itself, J2SE. So, and the things will be very easy once we are very, very good with the core Java. And you have a J2ME for mobile based applications. So there are so there are things that are very important in your Java are nothing but the Java starts with class as well as an object, right? So basically, what's a class and what's an object? So as I told you, Java is a OOPS-based concept. So Java deals with the OOPS. It's an object-oriented programming language, and the concept of object. So if you see, there is a lot of definitions for an object or a class, but basically the thing is nothing but your object is something, a real entity, right? When you want to uh, for example, when you want to do an application for a software industry, right? So your employees are nothing but an object. So when you want to design an application for an institution, your students are nothing but your objects, right? So object is something, a real entity, and the class is something, a virtual thing or a blueprint which represents your object. So for example, you take a building. So building is nothing but your object, a real entity, and the properties that your object will have, like the color of the building or the floors or everything, that are nothing but your uh, properties of your building. And so to do the building, you need a virtual thing. So the class is nothing but a virtual thing, right? So you see the lot of examples. For example, I can take my mobile phone. So in this phone, your phone is a real entity, which is nothing but your object, right? And you see the features of the phone, right? The color or the color or the things that the future, that the model of the phone, that nothing but the states of the phone, and what are the actions that a phone do, like a calling or chat. So that are nothing but some actions that a phone performs. So that is nothing but your methods, right? And to design a phone, you need generally a blueprint. So every brand has some blueprint. So that's nothing but a class. So to represent this group of objects or things, you need a virtual thing that you take it in a class, right? So every class will have 3 things, whatever the class that I take. Like it will have the state, behavior, and identity. So for example, I just take, so whatever the object that you take, that object will have the state, behavior, and identity. So if I take a class as employee, so this is nothing but my identity, right? Name of the class or the object that you create is nothing but your identity, right? And so what are the states that an employee will have? So this employee is a real object, that is nothing but my identity. And what an employee will have, what are the behaviors that an employee will have? So employee will have an ID, employee will have a name, and some address. So these are nothing but the behaviors of an employee or the states of an employee. So I can tell them as an employee. So what an employee do? He may do functioning like code or whatever the actions that is. So generally, what is a function or a method is something where you define some logic, right? So we have come up with there is some disadvantages, as I told you in assembly, and we came up with a method. So what? So they have write a method so which will perform some logic, right? So here you may code or whatever the functions or what are the actions that you do, right? Create some other employees. Employee can able to create some employees, and he can able to update an employees. So these are nothing but the actions that an employee performs, right? So these are nothing but my behaviors. So your behaviors, right? Or I can say these are nothing but my actions or functions that they do, right? So and one more thing, you based on your action or a behavior, your state gets changes. So based on your action or a behavior, your state of an object gets changes, right? A real example that I just want to give, I think you understand at this point. Based on your action or a behavior, your state value gets changes. For example, assume that your state ID is nothing but, for example, an employee ID have a 0 value. So for example, in update method, I'll just give that change that ID value to something like 3, 4 or something. So what happens based on your action behavior, your state gets changes. And a real example, I just want to give like a real time example that you can take as a bank account. So in this bank account, what happens? So this account is nothing but my identity, right? So what are the state you have in an account? So when you take an account, so what are the states that you have? Your account will have the balance. Your account will have the account number and your name, right? So these are nothing but, can you tell me the behavior or the state actions that change my state?
So the actions will be like depositing money, withdrawal money.
Yes, yes. So exactly. So deposit or withdraw, right? So what happens here? Your deposit or withdraw, they are going to change the state of an object. For example, if you have a state of balance 5,000, you do withdraw, the state gets changes. You do deposit, the state of the balance gets changes, right? So I hope you are clear. So whatever the object that you take, that object will have these things like the state, identity, state, and behaviors. So I just want to write a small Java program, right? So as you have seen that what a Java program has is nothing but your state, identity, as well as an object, right? So I'm just creating a simple object like an employee, right? So this is nothing but my name of the class. So what an employee will have some behaviors, right? So that behaviors I cannot able to, for example, your actions or methods cannot be independent, right? And that has to be embedded in a class, right? So that is your concept of an encapsulation. So how I generally write a class is nothing but I'll write a class and the name of the class. This is a syntax. So I'll just open my class and I'm just closing, which is a virtual thing. And what I'll declare, so employee will have an ID. I'll be declaring the name of an employee, right? So I just create a function like update. So this is nothing but an action. The employee, I just want to change the ID or a name. So initially, whenever you create an employee and when you have that variable, so generally it will be taking it with default values, right? So here hint is a data type, as string is the name of the class. So here I have not initialized any value, so that by default it's going to take the 0 value. Your string is going to take the null value, and I just want to update it something like 3 or something. I just updated it to 3. And as you know, in C or anything, you need a main method, right? So in Java also, you need a main method. So your compiler or the first is going to call your main method. So from main method only, your execution gets started. So this is the syntax of a main method, and will give the reason for everything, why it is public, why it is static. Once we discussed an access specifiers, we can able to understand why this. So for everything, there is a reason in Java. So I'm just passing this as an argument. Right. So this is nothing but your method, right? And here you have different kinds of methods. So you call this as a non-static method. We'll see what is a non-static method. As of now, you just understand this is nothing but a non-static method because I don't have a static keyword. So whenever you want to call a non-static methods in Java, we need to create the object of your class, right? So as I told you, right, the object is the real thing. So the syntax of creating your object will be your class name, and some reference variable, a new keyword, and a constructor. So we'll see the constructors topic also. So constructor is similarly like a your class, but it will have the brackets. So here, what is my class name here? Employee is my class name, right? A reference variable is something like when you want to store a value, right? Int id equals to something 4 or 5. So what happened? You declared an id and you are giving this value as 7. So similarly, when you are trying to create an object, there will be a memory will be created for an object, right? So assume that I am just creating an employee object, and this employee object will be creating some memory, right? Assume that the memory of this employee object is something like 103, right? And this is my employee object. And I will have some reference variable to hold the address of an object, right? So this is nothing but a reference variable or the value where it will go. It's going to hold the address of an object. So here I'll do an EMP, which is going to hold the address of my object. So your employee, when I create an employee object, it's going to create it in a heap. So whenever I create an object, it is going to take all the properties that belongs to it. So all the non-static properties. So if you see, you have an ID as well as name, right? So your ID and name, as I told you, your ID is something a variable as well as your name is a variable. So whenever we are creating an object, it is going to take that ID and name, but it is going to take that initial values or default values because we didn't give any initializations, right? So what happens? So what is a default value for an int data type? As you know, a data type So why you need a data type is nothing but so to represent some number, right? So a data type, for example, you want to store some number 103, right? And you want to store the number like this. You want to store the number like this, and you want to store some string value. So there is a difference that you store, right? So always your computer stores in a form of memory, but the value that you store will be different, right? So here this value is a normal value, so that I'll just give a data type as int over here. If you see this like a bigger value, so I'll give a data type as a long over here. So it's going to say that memory that how much your value is going to hold it. So the memory required for this variable will be the value, it will be more than this, right? And the memory for will be little more less. So and it is in the form of decimal. So I'll just store it in the float. So every data type has its own memory. So we'll discuss this even in the more. So this is not a number. This is nothing but a string. So I cannot store it in an int data type. So I'll just have this in a Java, your string is a class. So I'll just store it in a string, right? So you have a data type that is nothing but to represent the memory, and it is going to tell you what the value that you're going to store. So, but the default value of an int data type will be your 0, and the default value of your name will be null. So here the default value, I have not given any while creating an object, it is going to take that ID and name. I'm going to it will be the 0, it will be the default value, and your name will be the null. And so whenever the compiler or the thing is going to call only your main method, right? For example, when you want to do any application or functionality, you have a lot of methods, right? You may have like 100 of methods, but the compiler will not be calling any of methods. So it is going to call only of the main method. So the main method is responsible for calling all the methods that are present in your application. So the first step and the first starting point of anything is nothing but your main method. So the compiler will call your main method, and we need to follow the syntax, and we'll tell you what is the reason of this, right? So I have created an object, and as I told you, the compiler will call only the main method. So now I just want to call some method, nothing but my update. So which performs some logic. There is some logic. So this is the syntax of your method. So I have not told you the syntax of method. So generally, a method syntax will be your return type and the name of the method and the logic that you write inside that. So for that, I'm just opening my curly braces and just closing my curly braces. So assume that whenever you are not returning anything after executing this method. So after executing an update, I don't want to return that value. So then I'll just put it as a void. So void says that after completing this execution, you're not returning anything to your caller. So for example, I'm just calling this update method for an employee. From a main method, I'm just calling this. So how you call your methods is nothing but by using the reference variable dot that method. So what happens? This method gets started executing. So this is nothing but calling of a method, and once whenever you call this method, it started executing and it has changed the ID value, right? So after completing this execution, you are not returning anything to this main method, right? So then that in that case, you write that return type as nothing but a void. But after completing this execution, I have changed my ID value to 3, and I just want to return that ID value. So then what I do, instead of void, I'll be writing it as int. So then what happens when I write it as an int, after completing your execution, you need to return some value. Return, what's the value I need to return? I need to return an int value because a number, because I have written an int type as type as an int. So it may be 0 or any number you can return, right? Otherwise, I just want to return that ID value. So what happens? I can just get that ID in the column. I'll be caching that ID over, and I can print that ID. So based on your requirement, you can have the return type or not. So as of now, I'm not giving my return type. So when I don't get any return type from after completing my execution of method, so I should be writing it as. So if your method is having a return type of string, so after completing, I need to return a string. If it is float, then I need to return a float value. Right? So this is your syntax of a method. As of now, we are not returning anything, so we don't have. So what is the logic that we return in a method, right? So the logic that we have written inside a method is nothing but changing the ID value. So initially the ID value is 0, but after completing execution of your state or behavior, what happened? That ID got changed to. So the ID value has been changed to 3 after completing of execution of your method. And if you print that ID value, it will be your 3. You can show this practically. So there is no return type, but again, your compiler comes to this place, and there is no other point of execution because you are not calling any other method. So what happens? Your compiler gets come out of this place, right? The execution stops over here because after you're not calling any method, and it will be the end. Is it fine? Up to this, any queries that you have? I can proceed, right? Does
Please
anyone want
carry
to?
on.
Sorry,
I said, please continue.
your voice is breaking. Can you just tell in a chat actually? Is an issue? Can I continue, right? Okay. So generally, to execute your Java programs, you have different kinds of IDs. So if you see, Eclipse is one of the ID. So like I'll be telling you how to install. So you can execute that in a notepad also, but it will be very convenient when you do it in IDs actually. So Eclipse is one of the ID. So this is like the latest version of an ID. So you have the different versions in Eclipse. So it will give you auto-populated methods. It will suggest you. So it makes you very convenient to when you write a code in an ID. So it becomes it will be auto compiled actually. So when you write any Java program, you know that you need to do two things. One is nothing but you're compiling as well as running. So assume that if I write my Java program here, so how I do a compiling is nothing but I'll write Java C and the class file, name of the class. So once I write this name of the class, your compiler will start compiling. It is going to check is there any syntactical errors or not. So how it is going to call your main method. First, it is so as I told you, your compiler will call only one of the method, that is here nothing but your main method. So it is going to call employee dot main, and it is going to pass some arguments. So these are nothing but the parameters. Array of string it can pass, or it cannot. It may be empty. Because if you see the argument over here is nothing but array of strings, and it starts executing this, and it's going to check is there any syntactical errors or not. So if there is no syntactical errors, so it will just show there is no compile issues and you can able to execute it. So when you want to run it, you just need to write a command Java and an employee. So employee is nothing but the name of the class. So your compiler will find it based on the name of the class, and how you're calling your main method. You just see that's the reason it has been a static. So we'll discuss that when you see this what is static and non-static. I can able to tell you why your main method is a static. As I told you, there are two kinds of methods, like a non-static as well as a static. So your compiler will call with the class name dot main. So it is going to call only the main method. So from that you are going to call any other methods. And when you run java dot employee, it's going to execute and it's going to show you the output. So I just want to so this is nothing but you created a project over here. So and you have a lot of classes, don't worry. So otherwise I'll be creating a new so when you want to start newly with an Eclipse, so generally you create a Java project. So you have different kinds of project, TJP, many things. So I'm just creating a Java project. So something like demo 3, I'm just giving it the name of the project. You see that I have created a demo project, demo 3 project, and it will be automatically created with you have already have done installing of JRE and JDK. So we'll see what is this JRE. So it's like a Java runtime environment. So you need this to execute your Java programs. And I have an SRS folder. So here I'm just going to create a new class. I'll write a class, something like an employee, and I just want to have the main method. I'll just take that. As I told you, I'm just declaring a variable's ID, something like a string name, and I just want to write a method called update over here. What I'm going to update here is nothing but my ID value. I'm just going to change it to 3. Right. And how I create an object, I'll just be writing the class name empty. and this is the syntax that I created, and I'm called e dot update method. So this is nothing but a simple Java program that I have. So whenever it calls, it's going to call your employee method first. So assume that I have not given this ID value, right? So I'm just calling an update method, but I'm not changing any state of an object. So whenever you want to print something in a console, you just use system.out.println that to print that output in a console. Okay. You cannot access that when it is non-static. And non-static methods can be accessed in a non-static. So you don't have a static keyword here. So we'll see what is a static and non-static, then this make it clear. So as of now, I'm just calling an update method and I'm just printing it, but I'm not changing the value. So it's going to print me the object value will be, so the 0, right? So as I told you, so the initial values for this will be the 0. So similarly, when you want to print the name, it will be null. So null because I have not given any values. So if you see, the employee object has been created, and first your compiler will call this method, and from this it calls your update method, and you don't have. So eventually when the object is getting created, it's going to create with the 0 as well as null. So assume that you want to change that values. I just want to change it to some name as, right? So you can access that by using a reference variable. So I'm accessing that emp.id as well as emp.py. So as I told you, I have called my update method. I'm just calling that before this. So what happens? The values get changes to 3 as well as merge, and I'm going to print it. You can see it in the console the output. So you can even run it in a debug mode so that you can see the flow. So the first it comes over here, as I told you. The application first come to the main method. So as you see, there is a compiler, you can see it is a variable. So it is going to pass with array of arguments, which is of 0. There is no arguments that I have passed. And this is the place I'm creating an object. So once you created an object, as I told you, it is going to take all the non-static members. So what are the non-static members that you have? Or I don't have a static keyword. So ID and the name, it is going to take it. So if you see, it's going to, so this my employee object has been created. What this employee object holds, it is going to hold that ID and name. So what is the ID value that I have 0, and is it null, right? And what I'm doing, I'm calling emp.update. So as I soon that I call, it's going to call this update method, and your ID gets changes to 3, and the name gets changes to here Raj. So this is nothing but an object level. So this is nothing but the hash code or the reference variable that your object is holding, right? And initially the values are 0 and null. So when I say F6, so your compiler has changed and your ID got changed to 3, 6, and your name got changed to Raj. And your execution has been completed. So from where it has been called from the main method. So again, it goes to main. So you are printing that ID and the name EMP. So these are present in EMP reference variable, right? They're printing that particular values, emp.id and emp. Right? I'm just coming out of it. So it's like a debugging. You have a debugging mode in Eclipse, so you can able to see the each and every step. And in the real time also, the people use this even in the Eclipse ID only. And what I think after the end of the course, what I'm going to tell you, I have already shared the syllabus. I hope you have read. Apart from that, there are a lot of things that I'll be telling you more than that. So mostly I will do the live sessions, like it will be you will get the recordings as well as. So I'll just go do in front of the coding only. So I have worked with the different technologies, but that core Java is the only thing which is a basic for whatever you do. Like if an IT guy having like 10 years of experience also, core Java is very important thing. It's like a foundation which helps you to do any kind of applications. So I'll be try to do the best in my training, and I'll be covering the lot of topics that I have shared you already. So you can ask me if any queries.
Yeah, tomorrow onwards, what are the topics that will be going to cover from tomorrow onwards?
So basically, this is like a demo session, right? So
Yeah.
I have not tell you in a detail. I just want to cover what are the things. So from if it is from tomorrow, if the class is starting from the tomorrow, so I'll start it again with like what is a class and what is the static thing, what is a non-static thing. So how you write an application. So generally, my class will not be in a flow. It will not be in a what you say. It is not like a syllabus. So what I'll take a topic, and what I'll do when I'm explaining some topic, what happens, you get some method overloading concept. I'll explain that and I'll come back here, right? So I'm going to cover you the entire things that I've shared in a syllabus. So I'll start it from the basic, like what is it, why you have the features of Java, and what are the features of, as I told you, there are a lot of features, right? So here I just shared you this feature, sir. So I'll be covering like the real-time examples of these features. Next, I'll be telling you what is a static thing and non-static things, like that.
Okay, thanks.
Like apart from the syllabus that I have shared with you, you can also look into it, and if you want something more or you want to add something more, or you can just even suggest me. So we can do that. It is not only that we limited to that syllabus. So what I do is nothing but in my so we'll have, for every topic we'll have a practical session, and we are going to cover all the topics for almost. After covering all the topics, we'll do a small application or a small thing which will cover all other remaining topics, like that we go. So mostly I'll be in a perspective of development. So as a software developer, so what are the things that you more require? So if you see multi-threading or exception handling, these are the concepts which are more important when you do a real-time project. So I'll concentrate more on that. So my syllabus morely on the real-time development. I'll be trying. I have designed in such. If I'm fast or slow, if anything, even just let me know. I'll just try to change that. You can able to understand or some issues also.
It is good.
Okay. Any queries? So hope you see all in the normal tutorial. No, starting from tomorrow or day after tomorrow, like when we start the classes. Hope you see and we'll go with continue. And it's like Java is something like a learning thing. So I'll just even try to update a lot and tell you more. Fine. I'm just signing it off. Thank you.
Thank you.